Hello again, everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather on the 29th day of December 2020. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show once again. First graphic here, hazardous weather. Only one area lit up, and that's the western Arctic coast. Red for warning, and it's in winter storm warning. And that's out for tonight, due to end at 6 a.m. Wednesday morning. And for 40-mile-an-hour winds that have been blowing there today and expected to continue to through tonight, resulting in blowing snow that's reducing visibility to less than a quarter mile. Like at Point Lay, that was going on all afternoon, quarter mile visibility and winds gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour. It also includes Wainwright and Cape Lisburne and Atchison. Otherwise, no other watches, warnings, or advisories out around the state for the next 24 hours. So, satellite imagery showing low pressure system coming up toward the Alaska Peninsula there with a band of cloudiness across Kodiak Island. Another band up across the Kenai Peninsula, Cook Inlet, and then a thicker band there from the Yukon River, lower Yukon River Valley and Delta, kind of southward into Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula. Then another band yet there from Prince William Sound extending down into the Panhandle, bringing precipitation, kind of a lot isn't widespread, from the northern Panhandle, say around Yakutat, Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, all the way down into Dixon Entrance. But the interior, basically dry, and any flurries that fell were flurries and didn't amount to too much. And snow tapered off at Nome, and maybe some flurries there along the lower Yukon River Valley out over the southwest interior. But as you can see, dry and kind of a clear slot there from looks like St. Paul on down toward Unalaska, western Alaska Peninsula. Also some breaks around Atka, and then the colder air, more unstable air from Adak out towards Shemya for rain and snow showers out that way, with that old low now over the western Bering slowly weakening and pulling back to the west, keeping it breezy out over the western central Aleutians today. And rolling that through again, you can see moisture building south of the Queen Charlotte Islands. That should stay down there, not roll due north into the Panhandle. And also, the main storms, at least through tomorrow, will be south of the area until late tomorrow night. And on Thursday, big intense storm comes into the southwest Bering Sea and western central Aleutians. But for today, just a weak trough up along the North Gulf Coast into the Panhandle. And that brought about half an inch of rain to Dry Bay there just southeast of Yakutat. And then eastward there, more inland, Haines picked up about 3 to 4 inches of snow or so, with about a third of an inch water equivalent precipitation falling there, and the temperature running 30 to 32 degrees. So snowfall all day up there. Otherwise, just to the south, Gustavus had light rain, Juneau had light rain. Hoonah picked up about half an inch in the last 12 hours of precipitation, and even lighter amounts down toward Dixon Entrance. Otherwise, not a lot along the North Gulf Coast there, tending to increase, but not as wet as what I've got drawn on there. But that will increase as that low and the upper trough swing through, increasing precipitation, especially south central Alaska tonight. Out to the west, kind of a weak front out there, approaching the Pribilofs there, with drying in advance of that, and breezy with showers of rain and snow there across the Aleutians and the western Bering. For tonight, that low continues to weaken and kind of isolated out there over the far western Bering Sea, but still close enough to Shemya and Attu to keep it breezy with rain and snow at times. Otherwise, several weak troughs continue to bring some isolated snow showers. So kind of a break there in the Bering Sea, call it the calm before the storm. And low pressure weakens as it moves northward, increasing snow south central Alaska. And for tomorrow, maybe 1 to 2 inches falling across Cook Inlet, Susitna-Manuska Valley, maybe the Kenai Peninsula, and that's about it. And tapering off in the afternoon, mostly dry for the Panhandle, dry over the interior, and mostly clear up to the north and a little colder. And for the day on Thursday, there you have it, intense 929 millibar low, just moving to just north or near Attu and Shemya, with hurricane and storm force winds from Nikolsky, actually the eastern Aleutians westward, with Nikolsky westward to Shemya and Attu in the hurricane force wind warning, 60 to 70 knot winds in the forecast out there for those marine areas. And wind and precipitation will be mostly wind will increase for the Pribilofs in the afternoon. Precipitation barely reaching the area, but probably have to wait until Thursday evening. And some snow showers farther to the north. Otherwise, interior Alaska dry and cool, but not real cold, and variable clouds and dry for the southeast coast. Risk of rain or snow showers. They're just isolated, possible for the Barren Islands into Kachemak Bay. Otherwise, lows tonight, 10 to 20 below for the North Slope and Arctic coast, and 5 above to 15 below for the north and northeast interior, 2 below at Fairbanks, 8 at McGrath, and then mid to upper 20s along the southwest coast to St. Lawrence Island, and lows upper 20s northern panhandle, upper 30s south. Then the highs tomorrow staying below 0 from the Brooks Range, Anatuvik Arctic Village, all the way out to the coastline, and 5 to 15 over the central interior, mid to upper 20s. Cook Inlet's the Sitna Valley, Kenai Peninsula, and 30s, lower 40s for the Panhandle, and Alaska Peninsula, upper 30s, lower 40s, otherwise mid-30s out to the west. Lows for the following morning, single numbers, 0 to 10 for the central interior, below 0 for the northern part of the state out to the Arctic coast, and 20s to lower 30s for the southeast coast, and mid-teens to mid-20s south central Alaska highs. Staying below 0 again, the Brooks Range of the Arctic coast, even the upper Yukon Valley, high around 10 for the Copper River Basin, upper 20s along the southwest coast, near 40 for the Alaska Peninsula, and lower 30s, Haines area to lower 40s, Sitka to Heidelberg. And have a great evening.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Weather, we've got a band of IFR, quite extensive there across the northern Bering Sea from St. Lawrence Island to south of St. Matthew Island, all along the southwest coast there, just north of Cape Romanzoff, on down the coastline right into northeast Bristol Bay. And the southern Kuskokwim Valley, eastward there, across Iliamna Lake into the Kamishak Gap and the western Cook Inlet area, Alaska Range. And then up along mostly the south slopes of the central and eastern Alaska Range there, back down across the Talkeetnas, eastern Kenai Peninsula, North Gulf Coast into the northern Panhandle, except along the coast, Prince of Wales Island, also IFR, eastern interior, upper Tanana Valley, and up over the central Brooks Range. And for the afternoon, pretty good VFR starting the day for the central Aleutians, continues through the afternoon there, becomes VFR for the Pribilof Islands, and Unmak Island. Alaska Island staying a little marginal, and about the same for the Alaska Peninsula, IFR, Bristol Bay, into this big chunk of the southwest interior, up to St. Lawrence Island, marginal VFR for the Seward Peninsula. And then we've got interior areas, we've got marginal VFR scattered around with IFR scattered around and VFR scattered around as well. And Cook Inlet, south of the Forelands, to Fognak Island, and maybe down to Chiniak and Marmot Bay, looking kind of like VFR flying conditions there, with marginal for the remainder of the island. Panhandle, big improvement, mostly VFR. And then for Thursday morning, stays VFR for the southeast coast, as well as the North Gulf Coast into Prince William Sound, and some marginal VFR, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula. IFR up toward the from Denali Highway up to the Alaska Range there, maybe spilling over the range a little bit, and then definitely IFR. Due to lower conditions, fog, low clouds, areas of the eastern interior there, Eagle down toward maybe north of Northway and Tok, and then northern Koyukuk, Kobuk Valley, Noatak Valley, northern upper Yukon, right on up to the Arctic coast, good VFR with the IFR, Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, and then more IFR with that big storm coming into the western Aleutians, southwest Bering. And that band advances eastward there, stays with the main low center affecting Shimianatu, good IFR there, but IFR spreading in toward Nikolsky in the afternoon, improving behind the front, but still strong winds there for the central Aleutians. Northern Bering Sea, southwest coast, IFR right along the coast, but over Nunivak Island, St. Lawrence Island, and some lower conditions cutting right through the central interior with VFR flying either side of that zone. Northern Panhandle, VFR, marginal over to the south. And for the passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, mostly IFR throughout the entire day for Wednesday there in the Brooks Range. And Lake Clark and Merrill, same forecast, mostly IFR, it looks like throughout the day with rainy. Starting out IFR, I think we'll see some improvement there to marginal for the afternoon hours. Windy, lowest conditions, southern entrance, and the highest values, possibly VFR on the northern approach. And Isabel, same pattern, marginal VFR in the pass, IFR possible southern entrance. And for Mentasta, we'll call it marginal VFR but out the north side there, VFR. Antonita, mostly marginal throughout the day, and Portage, mostly IFR throughout the day Wednesday. Chilkoot and White, lowest conditions early on, and the best conditions probably late morning through the afternoon, hopefully VFR. And for the freezing levels, right on top of St. Matthew Island there, just north of the Pribilofs into Bristol Bay, hugging the North Gulf Coast, and then cutting across the northern panhandle there, and then down the eastern border, otherwise 2,000 to 4,000 feet for the central and southern panhandle. Icing, all the heavy icing for tomorrow will be south of the area there. You can see with the storms in the storm track well to the south. Otherwise, just some lingering threats there of some possible mixed light icing, even a lesser chance of anything moderate there, Prince William Sound out toward Kuskokwim Bay, and then the north central Bering Sea. Jet stream kind of cutting up a little bit there. That's not actually the main jet, just a little bit a branch of stronger winds, 85 to 90 knots, eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula. And at 9,000 feet, 35 to 40 knots there, not even getting into the Gulf of Alaska, southeast of Kodiak Island, but we got some 40-knot winds there, south central Bering Sea, central Aleutians, 35 St. Lawrence Island, and a little stronger, brisker easterlies at 3,000 feet, 40 to 45 knots. You can see up over the west and northwest interior, 40 knots Alaska Peninsula. Turbulence shaping up like this, not too bad. Could be some moderate chop up along the western Arctic coast into the western Brooks Range, and then also Kiska and Mchitka. Otherwise, the remainder of the state looking pretty smooth turbulence-wise. After the break, I'll be back with a marine forecast.
Here at the end of the Earth, it still feels like a place for raw exploration and adventure. It's vast in all directions and ground zero for some of the biggest questions we have about the climate. But when we decided to make a series about the frozen places on Earth, we knew there would be one hurdle we would need to jump over first. What is the cryosphere?
The what?
Ooh.
I have no idea.
While I'm aware of the cryosphere, I don't actually know what it is.
It has something to do with ice. All right, that's all I got.
How do you get people acquainted with the cryosphere when most of us don't even know what it is?
Hey, so here we are in Washington, D.C., standing on the roof of NASA headquarters. That's the Capitol building right behind me. And what headquarters does is kind of serve as the focal point to connect the dots.
That's Dr. Tom Wagner, NASA's cryospheric program scientist at headquarters. In short, Tom is responsible for making sure NASA knows what the current status of the cryosphere is.
The cryosphere is everything from the snow that falls by your house to the icy reaches of the Himalayas, to the big ice sheets of Antarctica all the way at the South Pole, and also the frozen ground of the Arctic, and even some of that frozen ground that's currently under the ocean.
If you had to break it down, you'd have a mix of sea ice, snow cover, permafrost, ice sheets, and glaciers.
Right now, our best predictions are that sea levels will rise anywhere from 1 to 3 feet within the next 100 years. 3 feet of sea level rise has the potential to displace about 100 million people, which is a lot of people that need to find new homes.
Our current reality places us at a near tipping point, and the cryosphere is playing a huge part in that delicate balance.
So one of the things people don't know about NASA is that we study the Earth, and we've been doing that since NASA's inception back in the 1950s. And we study the frozen part of the Earth in a variety of ways.
Missions like SNOWX, Airborne Snow Observatory, Oceans Melting Greenland, Operation Icebridge, Arctic Boreal Vulnerability Experiment, and countless other labs and individual researchers stand at the forefront of monitoring the cryosphere. But this year was a particularly big year.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff. of GRACE follow-on, continuing the legacy of the GRACE mission of tracking the movement of water across our planet.
2 state-of-the-art satellite missions are being launched in a single year as part of a major attempt to understand Earth's frozen places. Our scientists are answering hard questions, sharing stories from the field, and giving their best predictions for what we can expect of a warming world. We're taking you with us as we follow NASA explorers on their journey to the frozen ends of the Earth as they study our rapidly changing world from satellites, planes, and boots on the ground.
What we can do really well from orbit is we can tell when a surface of land is covered in snow. What's tricky is though, how thick is that snow? And it's even trickier how much water is in that snow.
What we think of snow depends a lot on where it falls. If you live in the eastern US, maybe it's fun. Or maybe it's just a pain.
But if you live in parts of the world where they depend on the water that's in the snow for a large fraction of their total water that they use for drinking, for agriculture, for industry, or for hydropower, the snow is a very important natural resource. For example, in the western part of the United States, 80 to 90% of their renewable water comes from snow.
Snow is one part of the cryosphere that many of us have actually encountered before, but it also plays a critical role in regulating the Earth's climate. Through decades of remote sensing, NASA has kept a close eye on the ebb and flow of snow cover.
We now have a 52-year record of snow cover in the Northern Hemisphere, and we can see changes in the extent of snow cover over the time period, particularly in the last few decades, where we can see that the snow cover has been retreating. It's been melting a lot earlier in the springtime.
The extent is relatively easy to do, and it has been done over the years. What's tricky is though, how thick is that snow? And it's even trickier how much water is in that snow.
That tricky part is known as the snow water equivalent, or how much water would actually be in a layer of snow if it melted. NASA and its partners have taken to the air to help solve this elusive mystery. First, there's the Airborne Snow Observatory, or ASO, a small plane outfitted with a couple of instruments, one of which measures snow depth using LiDAR. LiDAR measures distance using light from lasers. Since 2014, ASO has flown over basins in California and Colorado, taking before and after looks at snow depth. Scientists subtract the snow-free summer data from the snow-on winter data to get an idea of the snow depth. There's no single way to measure all types of snow across the globe, and so NASA's other airborne campaign, SnowX, is testing different combinations of sensors. This winter, SnowX will test a new instrument, the Snow Water Equivalent Synthetic Aperture Radar and Radiometer, or SWISAR.
SWISAR consists of 2 main components, one of them being the radar and the second one being the radiometer.
So with the radar providing the depth of the snow and the radiometer providing the density of the snow, we could put those 2 things together and get the snow water equivalent. Here in the chamber, we're going to measure different radiation patterns at our different frequencies and do some full system testing in this chamber. This chamber kind of enables us to isolate various types of radiation and interference. And in about a month, we're going to take the instrument, mount it on a Twin Otter in the Grand Mesa in Colorado, and we're going to fly it over the Grand Mesa and take various different measurements. This is what we call our engineering flight.
Making sure the sensors are calibrated is key in order to face the challenges nature will throw at them.
Half of the area that gets covered by snow every winter contains trees and forest. And the trees make it difficult for the sensors to see the snow that's underneath the trees, so it makes it difficult for us to measure how much snow there is. After the snow's had a chance to sit on the ground for a while, it gets denser and denser and denser over time, and it changes, which is another reason why snow is very challenging to remotely sense. It doesn't stay the same. It's constantly changing. One of the things that we often do in the field is go dig what we call a snow pit. We literally dig a pit in the snow so we can see all the different layers. The layering is very important.
All this digging is part of ground truthing SNOWX, a way of matching up what the airborne instruments see and what is actually sitting on the surface. The ultimate goal of SNOWX is to figure out what the best combination of instruments would be for a future satellite mission in order to get a global picture of snow.
We need to know how much snow is in a snowpack, because if we had too much snow and the snow melts too fast, then you can get flooding. And if you don't have enough snow, or if the snow melts too early, that can lead to a longer wildfire season, a more intense drought, and we need to know these things for water resource planning.
After we had a record that was about 15, 20 years long, we started noticing that the extent of the ice in the Arctic was getting smaller over time.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis. Looks like there's a little bit less there in eastern Bristol Bay, and not a lot of change there on the west side, Togiak Bay, and also a little, the ice not quite as heavy it appears to be from earlier on there from northern Cook Inlet. Otherwise, a little bit of decrease in the ice concentration there in extent near Nunivak Islands southeast into Kuskokwim Bay, and not a whole lot of change up to the north there through the Bering Strait. Coastal water forecasts for the, let's see, southeast coast. Light winds up on the north coast, west-northwest, 10 to 15 knots, and about the same on down the coastline, changing direction a little bit there, north to northwest at 15 knots, seas about 13 feet. Inside waters, central and southern, north winds, 10 knots, seas 2 to 3 feet, Lynn Canal, north 15. And then for Thursday, small craft advisories for Lynn Canal, north 25 knots, seas 5 feet, northeast 15 for Stevens Passage. Small craft advisories Clarence Strait, southeast coming up to 25 knots, seas building to 6 feet. And east-southeast small craft advisory winds for the south coast at 30 knots. And small crafts also for the north coast, easterlies 25 to 30. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, due south winds 20 knots, seas 4 feet. And the eastern North Gulf Coast, Middleton Island, west winds 20 knots, 11-foot seas. And the western North Gulf Coast, winds will be southwest at 20. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands, southerlies 25, and Kamishak Bay, southwest 25 for small crafts. Southern Cook Inlet, south 20, light to variable northeast breeze at 10 knots for northern Cook Inlet. I'll pick up from the northeast at 15 on Thursday. Small craft advisories south of the Forelands, 25 knots out of the northeast, and a little stronger for Kamishak Bay, the Barren Islands, western North Gulf Coast, all at 30 knots from the northeast. 25 knot northeast winds, eastern North Gulf Coast, north at 15, seas 3 feet for Prince William Sound. Kodiak Island and on down to Castle Cape from Sitkinak, southwest winds 20 knots, and 15 knot southeast winds on the south side of the peninsula, Alaska Peninsula, topside, southwest 15, Bristol Bay, southeast 15 knots. And then for Thursday, big increase there, full gales coming into the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula out of the east, 45 knots, 13-foot seas. And from Cape Sarachev all the way up to Sitkinak and up the east side of Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait included, east winds 35 knots, seas 10 to 25 feet, Bristol Bay, northeast 35. On Alaska Island tomorrow, depending on which side of the island you're on, north side there'll be 15 knots, bottom side there northeast 15 knots, southwest 15 there north of the island. Otherwise, Unmak Island, west-southwest 15 to 20 knots, west-southwest 20 to 25, Adak and Atka. Gradually increasing to gales west of Kiska to Shimianatu, where it'll be 40 knots from the southwest, 18-foot seas. And then the intense storm comes into the picture. Hurricane force wind warnings all the way from, say, Nikolsky, Unmak Island westward of 60 to 70 knots, all the way out to Shimianatu with seas running 29 to 51 feet. And for Unalaska Island, lighter winds, storm warnings, 45 to 50 knot winds out of the southeast. And for Wednesday on the southwest coast, south 15 knots, east 20 knots, Norton Sound blowing out across St. Lawrence Island, southwest 15 for St. Matthew Island, south 20 for the Pribilofs. And then high-end gales and even storms come into the, St. Matthew Island, southeast 50 for the storm warnings. Gales for the Pribilofs, southeast 45, 23-foot seas, and the southwest coast, east 40 knots. Small craft advisories for St. Lawrence Island, southeast 25. Eastern Boulevard Sea Coast tomorrow, northeast 10 to 15. Central Coast, northeast 20. Gale warnings for the western Arctic coast, east 35. And then 30-knot winds there coming around the Capes to 20 knots from Cape Thompson to Wales. Brisk wind advisories on Thursday from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort. And then we have gale warnings on the western Arctic coast, east 35 knots. 20 knots Central Coast, lighter north to northeast breeze on the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. And for tonight, mostly dry over the interior and that trough and an upper level trough there with that low center just west of Togiak Bay. Increasing the snow over south central Alaska and keeping it unsettled there all along the North Gulf Coast, but improving down toward Prince of Wales Island. Not much action out over the Bering Sea, so a couple of weak troughs and that low continuing to weaken. And for Wednesday, still some lingering snow showers. Could pick up 1 or 2 inches south central Alaska tomorrow and the southwest interior. Dry elsewhere. Big storm on Thursday. And you can see 929 millibars coming into the southwest Bering just north of Shimianatu with hurricane force wind warnings from Nikolsky westward.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.